The movie opens with a ballerina, Dominika Egorova, relaxing and listening to a soothing song on her headphones. At the same time, a CIA agent, Nate Nash, sits nervously. When the phone rings, he quickly answers and hears a secret code. He writes it down, deciphers it, and discovers a meeting location called Gorky Park. Meanwhile, at Dominika's home, she gets up, cares for her ailing mother, and takes her to the hospital for a checkup. Before moving forward, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It will help us keep bringing your favorite movie recaps. And guess the movie's name in comment section. After returning home, Dominika entrusts her mother to her caregiver, Lenny, and heads to work. At work, Dominika puts on her makeup and prepares to perform. Before her performance, her uncle Vanya, the deputy director of the SVR and a Russian intelligence officer, introduces her to a wealthy man, Dmitry Ustinov. Dmitry shows immediate interest in Dominika and insists on taking a picture with her.
May I present my niece, Dominika Egorova and Dmitry Ustinov, a valued friend to the arts.
May we have a photo?
Yes.
Moments later, Dominika takes the stage and delivers a powerful performance that the audience thoroughly enjoys. Nate meets an unknown person to exchange a mysterious object and quickly goes his separate way. A police car arrives at the scene and attempts to stop the unknown person, but Nate pulls out his gun to create a distraction, allowing the person to escape. The police shift their focus to Nate and chase him through the streets of Moscow. Despite their efforts, Nate escapes and reaches the American embassy, where he seeks refuge. At the theater, Dominika's co-dancer accidentally steps on her leg during the performance, breaking it and abruptly ending the show. She is rushed to the hospital for treatment. Inside the embassy, Nate's superiors scold him for his reckless actions. They explain that the police he encountered were only looking for common criminals and not targeting him, but his actions have blown his cover. Nate defends himself, claiming he acted to protect his asset from being discovered, which would alert the Russians about a mole in their ranks. In the next scene, Vanya meets with the agency director, Zakharov, and a high-ranking general, Kirchner. They brief him about Nate's recent actions and the mystery surrounding the unknown person he met. Meanwhile, Dominika wakes up in her hospital bed and breaks down in tears, realizing she will never dance again. 3 months later, as she recovers from her injury, Vanya visits her. Vanya informs Dominika that she will lose her benefits, including her mother's medical coverage and the apartment she lives in, because she no longer works for the dance company. Before leaving, Vanya hands Dominika a parcel containing a tape recorder. Dominika listens to the recording and discovers that her partner deliberately stepped on her leg during their dance to have his girlfriend replace her. Furious, Dominika heads to the company. She quietly follows her former partner and his girlfriend into the bathroom, where she catches them making out. Dominika attacks them with her walking stick, leaving them severely injured. Moments later, she regrets her actions and calls the hospital to report the incident, saving their lives.
There's been an accident at the Bolshoi Theater. Women's locker room, please hurry.
When Dominika returns home, she finds her mother lying on the floor because the caregiver abandoned her after the company stopped paying them. Heartbroken, Dominika decides to visit her uncle. The next day, she meets with her uncle, who explains what she must do to keep her apartment and her mother's medical care. Vanya instructs Dominika to meet Dmitry Ustinov at a hotel and make him lower his guard. Dominika agrees and goes to the hotel. Dmitry approaches her, and they have an intimate conversation. Afterward, Dominika invites him to her room and convinces him to dismiss his bodyguards. After the guards leave, Dmitry tries to force himself on Dominika, but a masked man suddenly appears and kills Dmitry. The masked man tells Dominika to follow him, and they escape the hotel together on a motorcycle. When they reach their destination, the man removes his helmet, revealing himself as Matt Horan, a Russian intelligence operative. Vanya informs Dominika that she witnessed Dmitry Ustinov's death and gives her two choices: be killed to ensure her silence, or join a school where Russia trains its best minds in manipulation and deceit. Cornered, Dominika chooses the second option. After saying goodbye to her mother, she is taken to the training school, where graduates are called sparrows. Before leaving, Dominika's mother warns her not to trust Vanya, who has always had romantic feelings for her since she was a child. At the school, a woman called the matron welcomes Dominica and hands her a note with the alias she will use. The matron openly doubts Dominica's ability to cope, pointing out her lack of military training. Dominica soon begins training with other cadets. Meanwhile, in the United States, Nate faces indefinite suspension. He insists to his superiors that his asset won't work with anyone else. Days later, Nate realizes the Russians are tracking him, meaning they still don't know who his asset is. He informs his superiors, and they deploy him to Hungary to reconnect with his asset. Meanwhile, back in Russia, Dominica excels among her peers. While showering, a male cadet enters and attempts to assault her, but she grabs the shower controller and defends herself. Soon after, General Korchnoi visits the academy and sees potential in Dominica for the agency. Dominica returns to Moscow and meets her uncle, who briefs her on her new mission. Her task is to get close to Nate, earn his trust, and uncover the mole's identity. She receives a passport and new credentials for her mission. Upon arriving in Budapest, Dominica goes straight to her prepared apartment and meets her roommate, Marta, another sparrow. The next day, Dominica meets the station chief, Volantov, who tries to seduce her, but she shuts him down. Dominica begins preparing to approach Nate. Marta warns her that Russia will never let her go unless she uncovers something valuable. Dominica registers at the pool Nate frequents, and he notices her. Outside the pool, Nate confronts her, starts a conversation, and invites her to dinner, but she declines. Nate quickly realizes Dominica is a Russian operative, but remains unsure if she works for intelligence. He also learns that Vanya is her uncle. Nate's superiors tell him to get close to Dominica, but warn him not to overstep. Nate agrees. Later, Dominica meets Nate, and they talk openly. She reveals she's a spy and explains how she ended up in her current situation. After their date, they plan to meet again the next day. That night, Dominica searches Marta's room and discovers Marta is profiling the U.S. Chief of Staff. Later, Dominica follows Volantov to a bar and confronts him about the negative report he sent to Moscow, blaming her refusal to comply with his advances. Dominica provokes him, tricks him into punching her, and then blackmails him. She threatens to report him for assault unless he writes a positive report, which he agrees to. The next day, Nate waits at a restaurant for Dominica, but she doesn't show up. Instead, she watches him from a distance and follows him to his apartment. Inside, Nate receives a call from his asset and jots down a secret code that translates to Vienna. Moments later, Dominica calls Nate and he lets her in. She attempts to seduce him, but he rejects her. The next morning, Dominica sneaks into Nate's apartment while he's out and steals a cup from his table. Back home, she finds her uncle Vanya waiting for her. Vanya criticizes her progress, but Dominica deflects by mentioning Marta's profiling of the Chief of Staff. She claims she's working with Marta to recruit him, which reassures Vanya. After Vanya leaves, Marta confronts Dominica, accusing her of trying to take credit for her work. Dominica explains that she only pretended to agree to buy more time and has no intention of taking Marta's credit. Marta insists, so Dominica shares what the state has on her. She reveals that she witnessed Dmitry Ustinov's murder. Shortly after, Dominica travels to Vienna to open a bank account in Vanya's name. Meanwhile, Marta meets Volantov to discuss a plan to eliminate Dominica. Later that day, Dominica returns home and finds Marta's dead body in the bathtub. Matt Oren sneaks up behind her and warns that this is her last chance. If she reveals her secret to anyone again, she will be killed. At the same time, Nate learns from his asset that Dominica is a sparrow. He hears about the incident involving Dominica's roommate and picks her up outside the police station. At Nate's house, Dominica confides in him and tells him everything. Nate warns her that Russia will never let her go and suggests she start working for the United States. After assuring her she can trust him, they grow close and make out on the couch. The next morning, Nate explains how Dominica can convince the SVR she's making progress. Later, Dominica takes a truth test with the CIA, which she passes. She informs the CIA that a chief of staff named Boucher is willing to sell U.S. nuclear launch codes to Russia and that she will meet her in London. When Dominica arrives at the hotel for the meeting, she notices Volantov is also present. She asks him to wait in her room while she handles the situation. They watch everything happening through their spy cameras. Boucher arrives and follows Dominica to her room, where they exchange the discs containing the codes for $250,000. Dominica goes into another room to verify the codes, but uses the chance to switch the discs with fake ones planted earlier by the CIA. After the deal, Dominica and Volantov leave, telling Boucher to wait an hour before leaving. However, Boucher leaves immediately, but soon realizes she's being followed. She panics and gets hit by a truck. Meanwhile, Nate goes to the hotel room to retrieve the original discs. The Russian agents outside the hotel notice Boucher's accident and inform Volantov that someone betrayed her. Volantov and Dominica are summoned back to Russia. Nate tries to stop Dominica at the airport, but she signals him to stay away. In Russia, officials question, torture, and beat Volantov and Dominica to find out who exposed Boucher to the Americans. Volantov is killed, but they believe Dominica is innocent. She begs Vanya to send her back to Nate, arguing it will build more trust with the Americans. Vanya agrees and releases her. Before leaving, Dominica visits Vanya at his home and tells him she is now certain they are alike. In America, Nate is shocked to see Dominica again. They go to his apartment, kiss, and sleep together. Later that night, Dominica wakes up to find Matt Oren torturing Nate. She joins in, helping Matt Oren beat Nate to force him to reveal the mole's name, but Nate refuses. Dominica seizes the moment when Matt Oren lets his guard down, attacking him and freeing Nate. During the fight, both Dominica and Nate are injured, but she gains the upper hand and kills Matt Oren. Afterward, Dominica contacts the American embassy for help. In the next scene, Dominica wakes up in a hospital and meets General Korchnoi. She explains her situation, only to discover that Korchnoi is the mole they have been searching for. Korchnoi admits he was once loyal to Russia, but turned against it after a corrupt bureaucrat blocked an American doctor from treating his sick wife. Korchnoi tells Dominica she can expose him if she wants, but urges her to continue working with the Americans. After Korchnoi leaves, Dominica surrenders to Hungarian authorities and requests a call with Chief Zakharov. On the phone, she gives Zakharov the name of the supposed mole. Meanwhile, Korchnoi relaxes at home, leaving his door open, sipping wine, and smoking a cigar. Later, Dominica is taken to an airport for an exchange. When the moment comes to reveal the mole, Nate is shocked to see Vanya. Dominica had framed Vanya by planting evidence over time, making him appear to be the American mole. As the exchange takes place, a sniper kills Vanya, but the Russians take Dominica back with them. In the final scenes, Dominica is honored at a military ceremony attended by Korchnoi. She is later shown living happily with her mother. She receives a call from an unknown person who plays a piano concert song. She deduces that the caller is no other person but Nate. The movie comes to an end with Dominica smiling as she listens to the song. What a crazy ending. Dominica gets her revenge against her uncle, and also becomes a CIA informant deeply insulated within the Kremlin. And that's how the movie ends. What did you think? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos. See you next time.